Who do you become when you don't feel safe? What are you likely to do when you don't feel safe? Do you harm others when you don't feel safe? Do you assert your ways? In an overbearing sense, what do you do when you don't feel safe? Who do you become? Did you notice that your fear and your anger, they're never far from each other? Did you ever take notice that the emotional rage, the anger, and fear, they are all one? You put the anger in front of the fear, and you drive and you drive and you drive, putting the anger in front of the fear. But when will you address the fear? The fear is at Pisces. It's being addressed. Saturn is making sure that karmically we address those fears. However, we're showing up with anger because at the fourth house, we learn that that's how we're supposed to do. Our tribe, our community, our family, our household, they did something certain when they felt afraid. They behaved a certain way when they were afraid. Are you doing it too? Are you doing it too? Through insecurity, we become something other than ourselves. We even sell our souls. We sell what is valuable, even what is invaluable, to feel secure. We live lifestyles, initiate relationships, circumstances, habits, behaviors that gives us a temporary sense of security. But false security doesn't answer it. It's still there. How many would run to the crowd of public opinion in order to feel safe behind the public opinion? But the small, still voice inside is louder than any crowd. Louder. Oh, so louder. The inner child saying, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. Here's a secret. We will never feel safe until we have righteousness. No one trusts a person or a situation that's not conducive to righteousness. It is only righteousness. It is order. It is truth. It is justice. Everything that we avoid of Saturn that truly gives us a sense of security. And who brings Saturn? Who supplements Saturn into our lives? If the fourth house is the environment of the mother, the 10th house, its polarity, is the environment of the father. We are a people, a generation, for several decades, that have alienated fathers, vilified fathers. Get him out of here, he's too harsh. Oh, he's not nice. He's misogynistic. Oh, he's stubborn. He's stuck in his ways. Oh, he cheated. Oh, he's a no good. He's a lowlife. The descriptions go on and on. But when the father goes, Saturn goes too. Discipline, order, structure, self-determination, accountability, critical thinking, self-esteem, confidence in the self, the ability to look another person in the eye. Fortifying the self against perversions. Fatherlessness has plagued us. And even if you yourself had a mother and father, the culture itself in this Western world, it reflected the majority. And so the influence goes. We're working together to heal this situation, this crisis. Can we honor our fathers from here forth? Can we honor our fathers? Honor our fathers. Know that no one will have emotional rest without righteousness. And no one will have righteousness without Saturn. No one. We will not have emotional rest without righteousness. If we do not have righteousness, we will never have emotional rest. Cancer Mars transit. Cancer Mars transit. Luke 12:53. Luke 12:53. Listen up. The father shall be divided against the son, and the son against the father, the mother against the daughter, and the daughter against the mother-in-law against the daughter-in-law, and the daughter-in-law against the mother-in-law. Cancer Mars, to really understand what just took place. Your fourth house expression and shadow is what Mars came to address. Where was there imbalance, overbalance, burden, fear, emotional burden, insecurity, bad culture, toxicity, injustice, unfairness, abuse, oppression, all of the above? Where are these things taking place at the fourth house? Which not only comes from the mother, but it comes from the environment where you were to expect nurturing, care, emotional security, a safe space. It's a place where you are to expect righteousness to prevail, justice, fairness, kindness, understanding, advocacy always, advocacy always, advocacy always. You are to expect at the fourth house, as you are growing up, to see advocacy. And we all know that this wasn't the case always. And before we even get started, let us pray to have mercy upon our mothers, to forgive our mothers, to see that our mothers were no perfect than we are, and we are no more perfect than they. And as they had challenges, we too had challenges. And it was not only on her to create the environment of the home, nor was it always within her power to control the weather or the experiences. And it's by stages that we become aware of our words and actions and how we affect others. So let's have forgiveness even as we consider these things. You have to take the look at your fourth house. You have to go back to childhood. Walk back. Go. I say again, go. Go back. Childhood. In the name of Mars, Ogun, who is a judge that administers justice between two bodies who have differences. Unfairness and injustice, oppression, wrongdoing. Ogun judges the matter, just as King Solomon did in a time where two women came claiming to be the mother of a child. And they brought the child to King Solomon, alayhi salatu wassalam, and Solomon asked, "Give me the baby." And since they could not make up their minds about whose child it was, he decided, "I will cut it in half and give you half of the child, and I'll give you the other half." And the one who could not contain her emotional discontent and rage, her fear, he knew immediately that was the mother. Such wisdom. Ogun is doing the same. There are claims that we have of unfairness and justice. Somebody should have been there for me in certain cases. Why did I have to fight so hard for the last pack of noodles? In the words of Max B, Mama didn't give me money for the ice cream man. Why was the door always closed? Why she worked so many jobs? I needed more hugs. I needed more love. It's the simple things that leads to emotional crisis in ourselves. And we go on disconnecting from that event. But the soul doesn't forget. And the soul uses the body and even uses the mind through the amygdala to find justice, to find comfort, to make up for what was not compensated, what was not given. But the places where we seek it out, oh, what a crisis we create. What a crisis we create. Regretful. Just because we outgrown the pain doesn't mean that the injury has gone away. We simply got used to it. It subsided. But the injury was still there. And Ogun came to push on that wound. He came to bring irritation to it, pour salt on the wound, put one against the other based on old terms, reawaken feelings of injustice and unfairness that you have been living with since you touched down on earth. Reminds me of how I grew up, you would say. Reminds me of something I used to feel. This is very familiar, what I feel, but it shows up in the workplace. It shows up in your marriage. It shows up in your community. It shows up with your friends and your siblings later. It shows up in yourself, in your wars that you have with yourself. Something so familiar. And because it's familiar, we bond with it. Bonding with a trauma that is so familiar. And here we go, finding people and things to keep us in a familiar place in our emotional crisis simply because it is familiar. This is an energy that I'm used to. This is an emotion that I'm used to. So this must be home, the fourth house. But what if that emotion in your fourth house was overbearance, competition. You know, as 80s babies and 70s babies, we grew up very difficult. We grew up hard. Our parents didn't have a lot of money. The farther back in time you go, the poorer our parents were. And the older siblings had to be the mother and the father for the younger siblings, because this is when feminism first started taking over. The 70s, post-war, coming home from war, drugs and alcohol took them over, and then unemployment. And that led to another crisis with the crack epidemic. You know the events. But either way, those born in the 80s and 70s, or even the 60s, we have something in common, that we grew up very rough. It's a lot of things that we went without. And we watched our parents struggle. Many of us watched our parents pass through the crack epidemic, and they barely made it. The arguments and the fights, domestic violence was real back then. We played outside all day till the street lights came on. We came in with scabs, grass stains, cuts and bruises, drinking water out of the water hose. And there was a resilience about us that had us to deal with the deepest traumas and domestic violence, drugs, very dark themes. And this is because we were the generations of Pluto, Libra, Pluto, Scorpio, Pluto, Virgo. We were the generations of Chiron, Taurus, or Taurus, Chiron. Not having things. And scarcity creates a certain attitude, a certain mentality between husband and wife. Scarcity creates an attitude and mentality between siblings. It creates a facial expression on parents that children should not see on their parents, of fear and hope that we're going to make it. Going to the food pantries, using paper food stamps to go to McDonald's in White Castles. Come on, man. I lived through all of it. Watching your loved ones as full-blown crack addicts. The crack epidemic was real. It became normal to you, the arguing and the fight and the abuse. The betrayal and treachery between siblings and blood, family, kith and kin, until drama and trauma became normalized. And if you're not involved in drama and trauma, toxic culture, toxic behavior, you don't feel at home. You feel naked. You feel out of place. You feel lost. So when you meet people, when you come across people who bring that energy back into your life, you quicken them back into your life and you give them a comfortable seat. You give them priority because they help you to recreate a reality that is the only thing that you can say is familiar emotionally to you, to where you feel at home in the trauma and drama of that fourth house. And you're always looking for somebody who can help you to recreate that fourth house shadow all over again. Because this is what you have decided. This is what you have believed. love is supposed to feel like. This is what culture is supposed to be. Cancer holds the themes of where your righteousness is at, where your morals are at, where you were supposed to learn your first lessons in righteousness, where you were supposed to learn your first lessons in moral rectitude, where you were supposed to learn your first lessons in integrity and character, fairness and sharing, emotional security, to where you don't have to hide and you don't have to cover as long as you are here at this home. Home is where you're supposed to let loose and be vulnerable. Home is a place where you're not supposed to fight for scraps, where the uncle and the auntie, the mother and the father, and whoever else involved in the family are not supposed to be damn near a knife blade away from killing each other. Police outside constantly. And this is what you're growing up in. Now, some people never got a taste of this. They might experience other things. And you can't say it's not worse or it's not least. I don't know. You never know what somebody experienced in their upbringing. Child molestation, drug abuse, going to see your father in prison, looking at your mother strung out on drugs, strange niggas in and out the house constantly, your sister pregnant at an early age, brothers out on the street selling drugs, all these things. That fourth house, your inner child identified with those things as culture, as being its culture, as being its approach to conflict resolution, to being its appropriate approach to relationship management. A criterion of judgment to how you treat yourself and how you treat other people. And where you have Cancer in your natal birth chart, this is where that reality is reflected back to you, and you reflect the fourth house back to it. This is where you become the mother, the nurturing figure. This is where you attempt to nurture others in the way that your mother or nurturing figure nurtured you. And this could be your father or grandmother. Whoever was a nurturing figure, that is who the fourth house represents. The environment of the nurturing figure. Understand? And this could be either one. But whoever that was at the Cancer placement in your natal chart, this is where you imitate that person, where you personify that person, where you take that person's approach to nurturing, healing, motherly approach to a person who needs comfort, nurturing, or advocacy. Comfort, nurturing, advocacy. Now, what if there were very toxic themes in that? Toxic habits, addictions, low self-esteem, codependence. Emotional crisis that you're imitating. What if you are imitating someone who is not well? Someone who is not whole, someone who is not healed. But you've decided from your inner child that that is law, that is the way. Why? Because the infallible mother, the holy mother, the perfect mother who cannot be corrected, who no one can say was wrong, she did it, so therefore I could do it to other people. I could talk to people like that. I could deal with people like that. I could treat people like that. I could address conflicts the way that she did it, or he, the nurturing figure. What if that included all kinds of verbal abuse? What if that included some selfishness, deceit? That description is in the fourth house. The sign that you have in the fourth house, the aspects and planets that you have in the fourth house, the shadow expression of those energies is what Mars was conjuring out of you and me, so that we could see that it's still there, so that we could choose in addressing it. Because where the problem came in at is that we thought we were authorized to behave that way. We thought we were authorized to approach matters in that way. We thought we were authorized to do it because it was the way that we were raised. It's the emotional standard that we have coined as normal, standard. The criterion of emotional judgment. And the mess it has been making. And we've been doing that towards the outer world and getting feedback because of that. But some of us were insisting on saying, no, it's not me, it's you. It's not me, it's y'all. I can't be wrong. I'm justified. But really? You have to look at your lunar placement. And the lunar placement gives you a lot of details to consider. And what impulsive energies you project out from the fourth house. What is that impulsive energy that you project out from the fourth house? The sign at the fourth house lets you know the attitude, the algorithm of spirit that you take with that impulse, the environments that you create through it, and how you perceive others at the Cancer placement in your chart, according to the context of the fourth house. That's how you see others. Coming clean, realizing that the nurturing figure may have been just as human as you are. And also realizing that as the nurturing figure left you with that burden, you are currently leaving your children with the same burden or a new burden if you don't become mindful. If you don't become mindful. And every child sees you differently than the other. Every child has a natal chart, and every child has a fourth house in the natal chart, and every child has a moon placement in the natal chart. And that's exactly how that child sees you as the mother. And that's exactly how the child sees that home environment. No matter how you want to brainwash them, that's how they see it. If Pluto is at the fourth house, Saturn is at the fourth house, or Mars is at the fourth house, you could be very much overbearing. A burden. Chiron at the fourth house, they are really hurt by you. These are things to consider. We're supposed to be cleaning up generational curses. We're supposed to be cleaning up what's in the blood. Pay attention here. Look at what's going on. We are coming out of feminism and liberalism. The very culture that cursed families in the first place. Feminism and liberalism cursed families like nothing else has ever done. It opened the family up for the devil to have a playground in the children's minds and hearts. It cursed the babies. The babies were sacrificed for females' claim of desiring liberty and freedom. But when they got liberty and freedom, what did they do with it? They hurt themselves and they hurt their nation. They hurt their country. They abused that freedom and that liberty, most of them, through feminism and liberalism. But we all have to learn somehow. We all were teenagers before. They were teenagers in their evolution and how they relate to freedom and liberty. And we all have been teenagers before when we first got introduced to freedom and liberty. And we certainly abused it when we got it. So it's not to say, oh, they're just innately evil. But it's a timeline of learning. It's a timeline. We have to do the work, the responsibility, the due diligence of identifying what energies of the fourth house were we bringing to that Cancer placement that Ogun or Mars was trying to get us to bring justice to. And what justice looks like in that is going back to the inner child and clarifying what justice really looks like, and helping the inner child to understand that you had an obscured idea of justice and how to administer justice. And you had to take the responsibility of healing that within you so that you're not spreading this plague that you inherited from childhood. You're healing. And because you were plagued with it, it should give you deeper compassion and understanding toward those who you learned it from, knowing that they were just as blind as you were before Ogun showed it to you. They were just as blind as you. No parent is perfect. None of us are as parents. But it doesn't mean that we should overlook the responsibility of doing what we can do about what we know. And this is something that we now know. As it relates to the community around you, once again, we're being purged. Jupiter retrograde Gemini. Gemini ruling the third house. This is rectifying the mindset, the ethereal, how you imply and how you infer, your critical thinking, knowing how to separate noise from ethereal value. Knowing that in the community or environments that you grew up in, some noise was entertained and emphasized as valuable, while that which is truly valuable may have been underplayed or overlooked. Foolishness and distractions could have been prioritized, while that which leads to efficiency and productivity may have been minimalized or even blocked out. And I can tell you, we have some communities where we shame and insult people who do productive things, who go the right way, who do the right things. And it's a shame. The black community is that way. We make fun of our scholars, our brilliant young men. We alienate them. We push them away. We call them square and we call them lame. And we all get cursed by it because we have to wear that ass whooping together because we're not doing enough to stand up against it, to lift our voices against such behaviors. We're not doing enough. Look how much attention is paid to frivolous matters. The Kendrick Lamar concert. 50 Cent disowning Big Meech. Stupid headlines. But matters of what's going on in the world that affects how the world turns, we're oblivious. We know nothing. We can't even have the conversation. Still got to catch up. Gemini ruling the third house, Jupiter retrograde, was showing us that in the voices of our siblings and community, those around us and how we grew up, they taught us to think a certain way. They taught us how to imply and they taught us how to infer. And we had to walk it back down to make sure that my mindset is efficient, that my mindset has correctness, that my mindset is going to work for me, to prevail for me. That my mindset was not programmed in the wrong way against my own favor. Taking the responsibility to walk back on your mindset to make sure it was not improperly programmed by that third house. Who programmed it? Well, who did you grow up with? Who did you argue with? Who did you share ideas with? Who did you share opinions with? Who did you get your perspectives from? Your talking points. Who was the first person who taught you about sex? Who taught you about relationships? Who taught you about love? Oh, the little girl on the back of the bus. Your homeboys at the playground. And you took that running. And you fucked up every relationship you ever had thereafter. You screwed yourself. You tied yourself in knots thereafter. Look who you're getting advice from. Look who you are getting advice from. Look who your teachers and your scholars are. Some ignorant ass niggas. Instead of credible sources. And the same thing still goes on today. You heard me recently talking. It's a show. It's called The Tonight's Conversation Show. Keita Rose and all these characters. This is what black people flock to, and they love to get advice from the most toxic sources. Kendra G dating show. This is where they go. That was our opportunity at the retrograde Gemini to really look back and see, where am I getting my information from? Where am I getting advice from? Who am I being influenced by? Because it has a lot to do with the results that you're getting. It has a lot to do with what you cause as a catalyst for the perpetuation of generational curses. And they seem to keep finding you wherever you are. No wonder. No wonder. Have you been paying attention? Have you been paying attention? Pisces 12th house, trying to get us past the fear. And that fear was from your ancestors. If not from your ancestors, from earlier lives in your lifetime. Understand? Undoing. And fear leads us into self-destructive ways and patterns. It makes us dangerous when we have fear. We fall into addictions behind fear. We seek to take ourselves out without even knowing it because of fear. We sabotage blessings and opportunities because of fear. We sabotage the opportunities and blessings of others because of fear. We become violent because of fear. Impulsive through fear. We misinterpret realities through fear. Fear has been plaguing us, and Saturn is getting us to face it, to see that you're the one with the power, you're the one with the authority. And fear is a lie. Fear is an illusion. It is a lie. It is a lie. The devil is a lie. Understand. Who could we be if we weren't so afraid? What can we accomplish with brave and bold love? Imagine if we loved without fear. Imagine if we created without fear. Not reckless, but competently fearless. And that goes back to Aries. I create. I am. I create according to who I am. Aries. But there is pain there. And that Chiron was suggesting that I am inadequate. I'm not good enough. Who am I to think that I should be so privileged to have this reality? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appeared to Moses at a burning bush as a flame, as a whirling flame of fire. And he spoke to Moses and told him that he would go to Pharaoh and warn Pharaoh. And Moses certainly felt inadequate to do so. In his supplication, he asked or requested of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, expand my breast for me, which is to give me confidence. Loosen the knot in my tongue. He had a speech impediment. So he lacked the confidence because he knew he couldn't articulate. And give me my brother Harun or Aaron as a help. He didn't make an excuse, but he asked for help. He asked for the help that he knew would enable him to do it. And this is supposed to be our attitude concerning Aries Chiron. What are we missing? What do we need to do it? Not, I can't do it, but I can do it. And I will ask Allah, I will ask the Most High, I will ask God, however you want to say, Spirit. I will make request for what I see would make my task easier. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what I'm called to do. The Chiron Aries, it hurts every time we walk. Being yourself feels so awkward, so strange, so unnatural to be yourself. Because for some reason, the timeline before us, the world that we just came out of, it had no accommodation for the real self. It only had accommodation for the robot, the corporate robot. coffee drinking corporate robot. But God wishes for you to come alive in His kingdom. God's wish is that you become authentic, reintroduced to the authentic self, seeing that you are a single thought of the Most High, an expression of the Most High, that nothing and no one can imitate. You cannot be imitated when you are authentic. What does that look like? That Aries was being held up by hesitation and fear to take the shot at Pisces, and by inaccuracy of channeled aggression through Cancer. And by clouded judgment of mind and thought through Gemini. And through lack of authority over the lower nature through Scorpio, we had so much to move through and heal. And as I'm mentioning Scorpio, this is a place where we had a problem. And that problem is we're constantly saying to ourselves, I don't want that to be true. I don't want that to be right. I don't want that to be fair. But it is true. It is right. It is fair. And so likewise, I don't want that to be wrong. I don't want that to be untrue. I don't want that to be unjust or unfair, but it is. And our problem is that we do not accept what we know to be true because we don't like how it feels. We don't accept how the scales of justice should go because we don't like what it commands or demands of us therefrom. We don't like truth because it demands us to change and transform consistently. Letting go of things. Letting go of things. Letting go of things. Even ideas, even thoughts, even beliefs, even opinions, even perceptions. Scorpio is indeed a difficult one. You don't own anybody. You don't even own your children. Your children are entrusted to you. They don't belong to you. They're entrusted to you for a time. Your husband is entrusted to you. Your wife is entrusted to you. And your siblings too, for a time. Nobody belongs to you, but we have so much entitlement. So much entitlement. We want reality to respect our feelings, to accommodate our feelings. What a lesson. What a lesson. What is it that you really, truly need for nurturing? What do you really need to have emotional security? What is the environment that lets you know that you're in a safe place where your most vulnerable expression and vulnerable state It won't be judged. It won't be used against you. It will be poured into, built upon. Accountability, but not without support. Criticism, but constructive. Advice, but not overbearing. What does that look like for you? And how did you go about finding those elements and putting them together? What did you actually come up with as a result of that effort to seek those things out? How far did you get? Cancer Mars is not to be underestimated. It is not to be underestimated. We're turning a corner collectively where security and stability, it's going to hold a meaning that's more true to reality. Because of the South Node, number 9, vibration through Virgo, we're opposing the detriment of Venus. We're opposing the illusions of Venus. We're opposing addictions and attachments to themes of Venus. Number 9 and Venus, it does not mix. With the number 9, you have to get a dose of reality. You have to get in touch with reality, and you have to find your place in reality. Find what is real about you, about your life. Get in touch with it. Find a way to accept it, embrace it, and be at peace with it. You've got to get real with the number 9 vibration. And it just started. We have 18 months to go to learn this lesson. Venus pours honey all over everything. It makes it sweet. And we need that in life. We do. We really do. But where we're coming from, we overdid it. And we got to get sober. Donald Trump's black marker is signing this reality into the timeline to where the infrastructure of modern society is not going to accommodate such excess. It's not going to provide such excess. It's not going to spoil the baby anymore. We will find self-determination as a direct and indirect result of the current administration. Self-determination is here. And long ago, it was Marcus Garvey who was the first voice to hold the black community accountable. With fire and thunder, he held us accountable, saying that we will die if we don't figure it out. It's a blessing when you get kicked out of the house, when you're more than able to take care of yourself. It's a blessing when a crisis or a tower moment comes to cut the umbilical cord, to cut you loose from weakening yourself, from crippling yourself, from spoiling your strength and your wisdom. It's a blessing. It's not a curse. Look at the blessings taking place today. It's accelerating and quickening the outcome, the process that we have to go through. Self-sufficiency has to come back and be restored. Self-determination. Getting realistic and sober about life, about ourselves, our destiny. and not through game, not through tricks of the system, not through finding ways to lay up, be lazy, be unproductive, have baby after baby after baby on the system and taxpayers' dollars. No, it's all gone now. Everything that upheld and enabled that is now, it's gone. It's gone. It does not exist anymore. It is now gone. That's favor. That is blessing, because it's going to force us to be responsible. It's going to force us to be accountable. It's going to force us into self-determination. It's going to force us into self-awareness, accountability. More legs will close. Less recklessness with sex will be had. Less children being born as part of a means to work the game of the system. As a result, we would become more intentional about how we create and procreate. Procreation goes with cancer. We're learning things and experiencing things at the same time that has us to reconsider our strategy to procreation. And here it is. A new strategy to procreation is being birthed. What used to fly in the sexual market, what used to be okay to do sexually, what used to determine whether or not it's time to have children, oh, it's a different consideration now. With this administration, there's a whole lot more to think about. And really, it's thinking about everything that we should have been thinking about all along as a collective. It's funny how responsibility returns after avoiding it. The new culture is here. And we see inside of it the emotional insecurity, the fears that we had. A lot of it has to do, rather or not, we produced righteousness, virtue, values. Righteousness is a shield. And without it, you're exposed to much harm and danger. Without good character and integrity, you become corrosive. Blessings are coming in ways and forms that don't look like blessings. But through Scorpio, we gain the ability to recognize blessings, even in the dark. Juno will retrograde back into Scorpio very soon. It's giving you a taste of what freedom looks like. Through Sagittarius, you're looking within and you're becoming self-determined that I have to be free. I have to be independent. I have to be self-determined. I have to be capable. Without the system, without the agreement or support of crowds, the culture, public opinion. I have to go a way that does not lend me the support and help of the status quo, the in crowd. And we know who they are. They're the loudest ones. The liberal fever. It's dying. And many are realizing they have to go their own way because it is a ship that is sinking. And now it's time to get up and go your own way. Everything that upheld a world that was enabling the worst in us is now disappearing. And every person has to stand up and find their own self-determination in order to make it, because you will not get through on game anymore. Free rides, handouts, entitlements. No. So nobody's oppressing anybody. Nobody's wronging anybody. Oh, it's a blessing. It's a blessing when the forces of nature work in such a way to promote your own independence and autonomy. Now, Cancer Mars also brings to the forefront the patriot. Understand the patriot. This is where we have the patriotic impulse manifest through the universe. Anyone who has a pulse right now knows that patriotism is really a very popular theme, especially with MAGA. And MAGA is expressed through Mars, just as liberalism is expressed through Venus. MAGA is expressed through Mars. Liberalism is expressed through Venus. Understand? So Mars in Cancer suggests a culture that takes on a MAGA disposition. Make America great again. And regardless of how you feel about it, it brings to the forefront a culture that has a lean into divine masculine. Logic, creativity, self-sufficiency, self-determination, as I'm emphasizing over and over again here, survival of the fittest, reliance upon the instincts, warfare, competition, being direct. If I haven't emphasized already, logic. This also highlights constitution, as Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Constitution through Mars. When we were in the timeline of Venus, which began during the Obama era, the Constitution was replaced by the feelings and sentiment of the people. That is the difference. That is the difference. So now returns Constitution, law, rule of law, logic, masculinity, the mathematical principle of thought, so on and so forth. This is where we're at. The culture is already set and programmed. Mars is now direct, going direct in Cancer, and there's nothing you can do about it. Whether you like it or not, this is the case. This is the case. And we are here to evolve through this consciousness, just as we evolve through Venus context of reality. We now are in Mars context of reality. Culture is now red, not pink. Understand? It is Republican, conservative, not liberal, democratic. Thus saith the heavens. Thus saith the heavens. The patriot is being born cosmically through this transit, Cancer Mars, and what we're learning is the first lesson with patriotism is unification. And that will be a lesson through the North Node of Pisces, which is going to download unity along with patriotic culture. And the unity is going to soften the sharp edges, what could turn out to be great offenses, such as, for example, white nationalism that rises up through American patriotism, white nationalism. It will soften some of these things so that it does not dominate the catalyst for learning. Every energy has an extreme. Every energy has a shadow that it could fall into its detriment. MAGA is no different. Republicans are no different. Just like there are liberals who are in illness, there are Republicans who are in illness too. Every energy is the same. There's a shadow and there's a light. This has us to contemplate and bring to mind, what do we appreciate about our nation? What do we appreciate about our country? And what seems to be the unfairness, the unresolved issues? Who are the groups or the people who need advocacy, who need defenders and protectors, who need spokespersons, who need voices to be lifted up for them? These are current themes as well as Mars goes through Cancer. There is a lot of unrest on all of these topics, on all of these subjects. And I'm not here to say, to really even get into that, because what really is a productive point of this discourse is that we backtrack into our childhood to make sure that before Mars leaves Cancer, that we understand why Mars even came to Cancer on a personal level. And the results that we were getting emotionally with others, the frustrations and the hiccups, it wasn't them. It wasn't them. It was our inner child that needed our attention, is what it was. It also was our role, our place in the home of our childhood that we walk with every day, not knowing it, and seeking out others with our time and our energy to relive it all over again. I don't feel normal unless I'm being abused. I don't feel normal unless I'm being talked to like trash. I don't feel normal unless I'm being ignored or betrayed. I don't feel normal if somebody isn't giving me the feeling that I had when I was growing up. Understand? We have to rise higher than that. So there's homework to do, and I hope you've done your homework.